Hi, welcome to Inktober Day 2. Today's nebula is the Eagle Nebula. So yesterday's nebula, I pretty much made a very similar version of what I did last year. This one, however, is completely different. It's a whole new design, and I really wanted to just do something better than what I did last year, essentially. I made a really boring version, and I didn't want to do that with any of the pieces this year. I really wanted to push the envelope and make them just more interesting and more personified of the actual nebula, so that's what I did with this one. I did a complete redesign of it, and I really like how it came out. So for this one, I really wanted to incorporate the different colors of the nebula in different ways. When I was looking at the actual photos of it, which is really interesting. If you're into space photos, it's such like a weird niche, but if that's something that you're interested in, I absolutely recommend looking up different satellite images of space phenomena and cosmic bodies and different nebulas. It's really cool to look at. So yeah, I was looking at the reference photo for this nebula, and it had just a lot of color variations. So I wanted to find ways to incorporate the different colors that I kept seeing. So the actual nebula itself is primarily red. As you can see, I'm throwing the red in there. But it also had some blue and some purple, so I wanted to make her hair this kind of faint purpley gray, and then I'm putting some purple and gray along the edges of the wings, or what I'm calling them. But there was also some like blues and greens in there, so you'll see a little bit of that. I made her eyes green for that reason, and then there's blue stars. This nebula was actually a lot easier to recreate as opposed to yesterday's Cat's Eye Nebula, because this one, you could tell exactly why it was called the Eagle Nebula. It just looks like an eagle spreading its wings. Not so much an eagle, I mean, it kind of just looks like a generic bird shape, but it makes sense. So I was like, oh, that's perfect, I'll just give her wings. But so I really wasn't stressed out at all recreating the nebula like I was with yesterday's painting. This one worked out a lot easier, and I had a lot of fun with it. There was just a lot of color that I was able to put into this painting. So for yesterday's painting, the background was completely just gray and black ink wash. The only color took place in the nebula itself and then in the Space Girl. This one, there's a lot of color because the nebula itself just had so many splashes of color around it. And there was just a lot of like space clouds incorporated into the photos that I was getting from the NASA website. So I wanted to have those colors there. So you'll see in a moment what I'm about to do, but the technique here to kind of get those space cloud colors is I threw all of this bright color around the edges, and then I put some salt in to get that starry nebulous texture. And then once the actual color dries, I'm going to just put a bunch of black ink on top of it, and then put salt in the black ink. And what that does is, as the salt pushes the ink away, it'll reveal those colors underneath a little bit. And so it kind of is a cool way to get the color to shine through without making everything so muddy. Because they have dried, they don't mix together. You know, the black and the blue and the red don't muddy up together to make this one disgusting brown color, it really pushes all of the color through. And like I said yesterday, I just love the salt texture too much, so I did go overboard again with the texture. I kinda don't like it as much in this one as I did in yesterday's, but I still like it too much to quit doing the salt. It's too fun. I don't have too much to say about this painting in terms of my actual technique and, what I'm doing to the painting. It's pretty much the same as yesterday's, except for the color. So if you are interested in hearing more about the technical process of it, check out yesterday's video. I definitely go into more detail about each individual step I'm taking as the process goes along. I won't do that for every painting, just because it'll get kind of repetitive, especially for anyone that's watching all of these videos. I don't want it to become too boring, essentially, to listen to. So some of them, if I do something different or new, I will go over the technique there. But most of them, I'm just going to be talking about the painting itself, if there's anything that I have to say. And then the in-betweens will just be some lovely royalty-free music. So we got another very clean edge with the tape. I am just 2 for 2 at this point. I've never had such good edges, so I must be doing something right. So I did mention that there were some blue stars, and just to kind of get that blue color in, I gave her some tattoos. And then what I'm doing here, I actually was doing something brand new. I had never tried this before, and I wasn't even sure if it was going to work out. I just kind of had a thought of, oh, I want her clothes to be a little bit more interesting. Yesterday's painting, there were no clothes, not in that way. They're just, the Space Girl was so submerged that all we really saw was her shoulders. So there was no need for clothes. This one, I wanted to do a little bit more of a pose, so I did need to give her clothes. And the fabric just looked, I don't know, it just needed a little something. So I wanted to kind of do like a sheer tulle over the shoulder kind of look, and I wasn't sure how to get that sheer fabric to translate via painting. So what I did was I just took that Liquitex acrylic ink in white. It's very opaque. I don't use it so often because it's so, it fades, and everything kind of, I have to layer on top of layer to really get it to be white. So it worked perfect for that idea of like a sheer tulle. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work out, but I really like how that just small detail turned out in the end, especially since I was kind of making it up on the fly. And I always add hair wispies to any of my characters because it just gives them that extra little push in the design. Going over that tool just to really make the edges of it pop. And then just some finishing details on the nebula just to kind of give it that blurred cosmic look to it. There are no hard edges pretty much in space. Everything is flowy and kind of like a cloud, very cotton candy textured. And because it is the Eagle Nebula, I wanted to give her some gold feathers for accessories. I don't think it really translated as feathers in her hair and then feathers hanging off of her belt line. But the gold still is a nice touch, even if you can't really tell what it was supposed to be. I think it gave it a nice little touch. And then I'm putting those actual blue stars around as well. And here she is. I'm really happy with how she turned out. The colors are so bright, and I love the pop of color coming through in the background on that nebula. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys for the next one.